We find that when we take a look at what people are looking for and searching for information on in the LIMS space, this question of how much does the actual LIMS cost comes up quite a lot, and so we thought we would go through some of this and the factors involved. So just to give you an idea of who is speaking to you, this is me over here on the right-hand side, and I am an informatics systems expert. I've been involved in the informatics world for well over 20 years, and I have expertise in a variety of different systems like LIMS, lab information systems, electronic lab notebook systems, chromatography data systems, and the whole alphabet of soup of informatics systems, as you could see. I've operated and successfully worked inside of a variety of different industries and have exposure to and extensive knowledge of most of them, pharmas and biotechs and clinical and chemical and so on and so forth. I have had the honor and privilege to be able to work and put in systems in different laboratories and different type of areas, both QC and R&D, so that I have a very extensive knowledge of laboratory processes and workflows across the board. Along the way, I've sort of picked up a lot, although I'm not an IT professional by background. I do have a doctorate in chemistry. I do have extensive knowledge of IT network systems, all that type of things that go along with informatics systems implementation and selection inside. So if you have questions on any of these fronts, you could feel free to ask, and I'll do my best to answer them or find you the answer should I not know. So that being said, let's take a look at the agenda today. Just make sure that you're all here for the same reasons. We're going to go through a little bit of the LIMS licensing support costs. So I had mentioned in the actual synopsis of this that there is quite a lot of things that you can get from the vendor on their quote, and I will go, as I go through the actual presentation, I'll give an idea of what you can get and derive from a vendor on the quote and what you can't. So LIMS licensing and support costs we'll go through and what that all means. Hardware that you may or may not need depending upon your particular situation and what type of architecture you choose to implement for your LIMS or choose for your LIMS. Implementation costs, this is always a very difficult area to try and tie down or nail down as the actual costs. Personnel costs, both internal and external costs, what those might be. Integrating instruments, systems integration, data migration. We'll talk about some of the multi-site global type of considerations. Actually, just out of curiosity, Megan gave you the ability, showed you how to use the raise hands. So if you are actually in a situation where you're either putting in the LIMS or have a LIMS or whatever for multiple sites or across the globe, just could you raise your hand real quick so I get an idea of the audience to see whether I need to spend a great deal of time on that topic or not. So I'll give you a second here to react. So if you are in a multi-site or global type of situation, please raise your hand at this time. Megan, anybody reacting?
Yeah, looks like, I'm going to say half.
Half, okay. All right, so I'll go through that then, make sure we take time there. We'll also talk about computer systems validation and the costs associated with that and the factors involved in that will change your costing. And we'll talk at the very end about how strategic planning and business analysis and the like is really key to being able to fully understand your total costs and then how that all works. So that being said, let's just dive into this. So looking at the different types of LIMS architectures, there's what I would call, traditional type of LIMS architectures, which are in the old days primarily client-server type of systems. These are generally systems that are deployed internal to your own firewall in a client-server type of fashion, as well as now there are most popular is the web-based systems. And I sort of break this down into two different kinds. There's zero footprint type of web-based applications. What that really means is that there's no real software loaded onto your laptop or tablet or whatever. You're just using the browser, and this is what's preferred in the web-based world from the IT perspective because there's no need to load a bunch of software and keep updating it on your actual laptops or notebooks or whatever along the way. And there's also small footprint that actually does require some software to be put onto the individual user interface type of or actually I guess the user device, whether that is your laptop or PC. So web-based systems can be either internally sort of dished out based upon your own servers and having your web browser internal to your firewall, or they could be done over the web, right? And the over-the-web way can give you then into the SaaS type of world, or software as a service type of world. So web-based systems can have the opportunity to do things as software as a service. They don't have to, but they can do that. So the difference between software as a service and the web-based is really how the model of the pricing and how it's dished out really is. And within the software as a services space, it's important to understand, this sort of that picture over here on the right where the nebulous internet and some nebulous provider over here is available to you to offer out your LIMS, is there's two general ways this is done. One is a shared cloud. Okay, so what that means is that in a shared cloud situation, one instance of the software that is being used by multiple companies, multiple parties, so you're sharing that cloud, that instance of the software with multiple people. Now the security built into the systems and firewalls to protect people from seeing each other's stuff. But if you're in a highly regulated environment, a lot of people don't like that too much. There's a number of reasons. We'll get into some of the validation reasons, but there also is a preference oftentimes for a private cloud. And what that basically means is that you have your own cloud server and your system is on that. So you have more freedom, you have more control, and sometimes people feel that it's a more secure type of environment. It depends upon your level of acceptance of risk, of your regulatory situation, a lot of different situations, or different factors, I should say, that are involved in choosing that. And the reason I bring up these architectures is that the pricing in these different architectures is different, right? So it's very important to understand what the architecture you're going to be using and what your LIMS, potential LIMS solution is going to be in order to understand some of the pricing.